We are right now at the threshold of stepping into what is going to be the most epic, evolutionary next 2 decades of our entire lifetime. Pluto prepares to move into the sign of Aquarius on January 20th or 21st, 2024. Ultimately, Pluto is going to be in the sign of Aquarius until 2044. This is the only time that any of us who are alive on this planet right now will ever experience the energy of Pluto in Aquarius. And it is very evolutionary, revolutionary. I'm going to start by talking about the different energies and archetypes of the planets involved, the signs involved. Then we're going to talk about the actual chart of, what's going on at the moment when Pluto ingresses into Aquarius, and then what that means for us collectively and individually as well. Pluto is all about transformation, processes of metaphoric death, rebirth, renewal, metamorphosis. Pluto is connected to the archetype of alchemy, and I want to say spiritual alchemy. It's connected to the sign of Scorpio, and Scorpio in and of itself is very much about alchemy. Scorpio actually has 3 phases of evolution connected to it. And these are symbolized by the scorpion, the eagle, and the phoenix. The scorpion represents our primitive, primal, unconscious nature, the reactionary nature of us. This is like the shadow side of scorpion energy. Next is the eagle, which rises above the primitive, primal, shadow side unconscious nature and begins the journey of becoming more aware and conscious and seeing things from broader perspectives. But the last phase of expression of Scorpio is represented by the mythical bird, the phoenix, rising up from the ashes. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because this is very connected to how we can expect to experience the evolution that we are at the threshold of now as Pluto is moving into Aquarius. Because it's a very long-term transit, it's going to be the next 2 decades, we are all collectively and individually going to be going through these various stages that are connected to the scorpionic energy, which again is co-ruled by Pluto. Pluto seeks to unearth that which needs to transmute, that which needs to alchemize, that which needs to evolve, which means we're going to be dealing with polarities as this is happening, because there's going to be people connected to our collective structures that want to keep the old structures in place, even though they are outdated, they don't work, they're not aligned with the evolution of our planetary consciousness. And that's going to be polarized by the people, the organizations that are holding space for the new paradigms that are coming in. So I'm going to say right here that the very best tool that we all have individually that will enable us to navigate through this amazing time is knowing yourself, being really deeply connected with your soul guidance, your intuition. In fact, this is connected to some of the evolutionary aspects that we're going to be seeing over the next 20 years, but I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So before I talk more about what Pluto going into Aquarius means, let's talk about what Pluto is transitioning out of. Pluto is transitioning out of the sign of Capricorn, which it has been in since 2008. Now, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So I'm going to talk about what the Capricorn themes are and what the Saturn themes are. just so that we can understand a little bit more about where we're coming from and the direction that we're going. Capricorn energy in general is practical, it's determined, it's self-reliant, very responsible, diligent, and attention focused. Saturn themes are very connected to structure. This can be our personal structure as far as how we guide ourselves through our daily routines and how we stay diligently focused on whatever our goals are. But the structure connected to Capricorn also represents structures within society. This is connected to various institutions that are integral aspects of our societies. Governments, education systems, banking systems, healthcare systems, anything having to do with all of those things. Saturn also represents time, authority. It also can represent constraints, limitations, energetic blocks. And on the soul evolution level, it represents karma. So we are all collectively coming out of a decade and a half of working through cultivating and navigating these types of themes. Back when Pluto first went into Capricorn in 2008 is when we had that financial collapse. Since then, there's been many levels of power struggles around various institutions and structures that are connected to how we operate within our societies, respectively. And we've really noticed this recently. At the time of me recording this, it is right in the days of when Pluto is going into Aquarius in January of 2024. Now, let me just pause and say real quick here that we did have a little teeny glimpse of Pluto moving into Aquarius in 2023, mid-March to mid-June. So since then until now, January 2024, while we have been in the very last critical final shebang degrees of Capricorn, we have seen an escalated power struggle intensity happening between not only our government in the United States, but world governments, which is actually going on literally right now, still. That is all going to transform and shift and change over the course of the next 2 decades. In a little bit, I'm going to talk about what all of this means for us on individual levels. But first, let me talk now more about what the Aquarian themes are so that we can understand a little bit more about what we're moving into. Aquarius themes are largely connected to humanitarianism, evolution, revolution, new paradigms, leading edge technologies, leading edge innovations, leading edge ideas. Aquarius is connected to modernization, nonconformity, rebellion, revolution, electricity, technology, advancements in sciences. And Aquarius actually also rules esoteric arts and sciences such as astrology. Now, Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. The themes of Uranus are connected to creativity, ingenuity, innovation, imagination, experimentation, scientific genius, and radical change. So the energies that we are collectively moving into now are all around all of those types of themes. So Pluto in Aquarius ultimately supports an influx of ingenuity, creativity, transformation, revolution, and evolution. So here I'm going to talk about some of the things that I intuitively sense this is going to bring in over the next few decades. There's going to be an air collectively of light versus dark, and we are already seeing this in the world. Now, to chime in intuitively on this level, this is the insight that I have and the advice that I'm going to give. Whatever you are against weakens you, and whatever you are for empowers you. Now let's take that and look at what's going on in the world right now with, we all know what's going on in certain areas of the world, right? There's been a lot of propagation of short video reels that we see on social media networks that are showing devastation that's going on in certain parts of the world right now. Okay? Even that on one level is a tactic to trigger people into feelings of powerlessness, worry, fear, uncertainty. And because of that, many people are rising up against that energy. But when we are putting our energy towards what we are against, we're resisting what is, that ultimately weakens our energy. It weakens our life force energy. The higher pathway to take would be to be aware of what's going on, but not allow yourself to get sucked into the disempowering drama of it, but rather to rise above, step into your inner light worker, and diligently hold the space for highest timeline through your intentions, your prayers, your meditations, your envisionings, as one example of how we can ultimately win the war of good versus evil. It's not going to be through resisting the darker forces or fighting against the darker forces. It's flowing around it and staying focused on the higher timeline. Like, it's not even in the realm of your vibration. That is the path for all of us to take right now. Okay, so one of the main things that I'm seeing is that there's going to be a lot of renovating around our education systems. Standard education feels like there's going to be this polarization between educational institutions wanting to bring education more prominently online. And at the same time, there's going to be more of a pronouncement of education opportunities that are connected to what we could say higher education, meaning life philosophies, spiritual education, esoteric arts and sciences. And ultimately, I feel like there will be way down the road, maybe 20 years from now, more of a melding of education between the standard things that we learn in our educational years of development and higher education. There's going to be more of a merging of those two things. Like, for example, one thing that I've always wondered is, why don't we learn how to grow food in school? Why does school not show us how to survive as humans? That's one thing that's going to be more introduced within standardized education. More of a focus on homesteading, not only with how to grow food, but how to sew, how to build shelters, and things like that, which I feel is definitely a big plus. So, with Pluto, there's gonna be structures crashing down, but it's only to make room for the new, improved, healthier way of doing things. Of course, in regard to sciences and technologies, we are already seeing advancements in artificial intelligence, but there's also going to be new discoveries regarding extraterrestrial life over the next 20 years. This could happen in a variety of ways. It feels like there could be more verified sightings of UFOs on Earth. It feels like with science, the way it is advancing and being able to look into outer space, there could be the discovery of life on other planets or in other solar systems on that level as well. And then also things that are connected to like ancient alien visitations on Earth through things that are discovered underground or under the oceans. Because again, Pluto has to do with unearthing things that have been buried, and that can be metaphorically, but it can be literal as well. One of the biggest things that I'm sensing psychically that's going to be revolutionized over the next 20 years. I don't want to say discovered because I feel that there's people who already do know about this, but it will be revolutionized over the next 20 years. There's going to be standardization around unlimited free energy sources that are specifically connected to magnetics. Now, I have felt this psychically for a very long time, and I'm going to go ahead and say it, and I hope I don't have men in black chasing me down after this. But I've always felt intuitively that there's a way to create unlimited free energy through magnetics in this way. And I don't know what this is called. I'm not a scientist. But you know how when you take two magnets of the opposite poles and they repel each other, there's something about that energy that happens in the repelling of two magnets in the opposite directions that can be harnessed to create unlimited free energy. I'm positive that there are already scientists in the world that know about this and have known about this for a very long time, but it's something that has been kept hush hush or kept behind the scenes because of course that would make all of our different energy companies obsolete. This is definitely something that is going to be revealed, unearthed, and eventually standardized. There's no reason why in this day and age we can't enjoy the benefits of free, unlimited power supply. Like the only reason we don't have that right now is due to greed regarding the companies that are currently supplying us with power and energy. About a year or two ago, I started having visions of there being automobiles that hover above the ground rather than driving on roads. And so this is going to mean that there's going to be the invention of hovering automobiles. I want to say hovering and not flying. However, when I see this, I feel like instead of there being lanes on the road this way when we drive, like there's lanes next to each other, there's going to be lanes in the air on top of each other. And I feel like the technology of that is already being experimented with, and it's only a matter of time before that happens. And by the time that happens, there's no more need for gasoline. And I feel like the free energy sources that we're using are even going up beyond solar or wind, and it's something about magnetics again. But what I'm really excited about is that there's going to be more advances in the realm of esoteric arts and sciences, as I mentioned earlier. I feel like there's going to be more of a fusion or connection of utilizing sidereal astrology with tropical astrology, rather than there being these two polarized schools of astrology. You're either working with sidereal Vedic astrology or Western tropical astrology. There's going to be more research into the roots of these sciences in ways that enable us to work with them as a cohesive, interlocking system. And honestly, that's the way that I'm already working with it. My personal perspective on this is that sidereal astrology is connected to being able to look into and predict energies that affect humanity in regard to the epochs or ages. Like right now we're in the age of Pisces, next will be the age of Aquarius. And these ages that we have loosely impact humanity as a whole. But tropical astrology gives us more precise details about our personality characteristics and traits, and how we process and navigate life's experiences here on Earth. I also feel like there's going to be advancements in studies that are connected to extrasensory perception, our ability to perceive beyond the physical senses, which of course I already know a lot about as a professional psychic reader who's been teaching psychic development since 1994. But it feels like there's going to be more of an exploration of these things on deeper levels, which will lead to scientific breakthroughs. When science can explain the phenomena of psychic ability, somehow it's going to be more standardized and accepted than it has been up till now. In the meantime, all you have to do is take my classes and learn for yourself. Okay, so now let's take a look at what was exactly going on in the sky with the astrological transits at the moment that Pluto went into Aquarius. Let's take a look at this chart that I'm pulling up here. So as I'm pulling this up, you can see that when Pluto went into Aquarius, it was conjunct the Sun, which also just moved into Aquarius. On January 20th, 2024, at 5:58 p.m. Sedona, Arizona time. So that would have been 4:58 p.m. Pacific time, 7:58 p.m. Eastern time. The sun is our star in our solar system. It's the brightest thing in our solar system. It's connected to what brings us our life force, vitality. We cannot live without the sun. Conjunct the farthest planet away from it, which represents, on one level, the shadow side. So we literally have the light and the dark coming together into the sign of Aquarius. This energy in and of itself is very evolutionary. Pluto is informing the sun of what needs to be transformed. And the sun is supporting the transformation of those Pluto themes. So they are working hand in hand. We talked a little bit about how this is happening collectively. I'm going to talk about what this means for us individually in a minute, but let's take a look to see what else is going on here on that day where this ingress occurred. Right when Pluto went into Aquarius, it made a square aspect to Jupiter in Taurus. And then Jupiter is making a positive trine aspect to both Mars and Mercury. And Mars is out of bounds right now. Again, when a planet is out of bounds, that means it has drifted a little bit outside of its usual orbiting range around the ecliptic plane, and it accentuates the energy of that planet. So Mars is where our action is. Mars is the archetype of the warrior. It's ready to take action. And conjunct Mercury, which is also in this trine to Jupiter, it's ideas around this evolutionary energy, dismantling the old and preparing to bring new structures in place right away. Pluto is also making a sextile aspect to Neptune. Neptune is in Pisces. Neptune in Pisces is very connected to intuition, our connection spiritually. So Pluto making a sextile aspect to Neptune in Pisces is saying that the evolution is for the greater good of humanity. It's saying that it's aligned with what we all collectively are wanting to evolve into, spiritually speaking. And I don't mean religiously, I mean in regard to our connection spiritually, our connection to ourselves, our connection to each other, our connection to the planet, our connection to our solar system, our intergalactic connections. We are ready to evolve. In fact, this awareness that I started having a few years ago is exactly why I named my healing arts center in Sedona is called Earth Wisdom Healing Arts. And then my esoteric school is Earth Wisdom School. And to me, that speaks to this soul-centered evolutionary wave of growth and transformation that we're in right now and that we're going to be in for the next 20 years. Now, when I'm looking at the chart here, Mercury is also making a sextile aspect to Saturn. Saturn is also in Pisces right now. And Saturn in Pisces brings us into a feeling of personal responsibility regarding our soul evolution. And so that is another factor in the energy dynamics that are being awakened and activated at the moment that Pluto went into Aquarius. So the empowerment of creativity, ingenuity, freedom, radical paradigm shifts, evolution in regard to what the collective energy of humanity is actually ready for and seeking right now, which feels like it's reclaiming our soulful connections, reclaiming our right to live more well-rounded. We're living as holistic mind, body, spirit, heart beings. And all of the evolution that we are going to be experiencing collectively for the next 20 years is more aligned with that paradigm. Now, on personal levels, I want to guide you through how you can find your power axis for the entire time that Pluto is in Aquarius. Now, here's what I mean by the power axis. Pluto just left Capricorn, which is an earth sign. The entire time that Pluto was in Capricorn, it made trine aspects to the other earth signs, which are Taurus and Virgo. Okay? The earth sign axis of Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo has been all about cultivating. For the entire time that Pluto has been in Capricorn, all of us individually have been in some type of cultivation period. And that is what our power axis has been. Now, the way that you can recognize exactly what your cultivation themes have been since 2008 is to look at your birth chart, your natal chart, and look to see what houses those earth signs are in your natal chart. And that shows you exactly what your personal cultivation themes have been. As an example, I am a Capricorn, so I survived having Pluto over my sun since 2008. And I can say, being on the other side of it now, kind of, we're just, coming into it, that it actually has been a really rewarding experience for me. But that might have to do with what my personal power axis has been. My Capricorn is in my 10th house of career and long-term goals, which means that my Taurus house is in the 2nd house of values, worth, and how we make money. And my Virgo is in my 6th house of service, work, and health routines. So my cultivation since 2008 has been all about those themes of my long-term goals, my career, how I'm in service, what I value, how I make money. And my personal experience of that has been that I have profoundly grown as a psychic reader, as an energy healing practitioner, as a shamanic counselor and soul guide. So that's just as one example of how my personal power axis has totally worked for me during the time that Pluto was in my 10th house. So now my power axis is shifting. We're all shifting into air signs now. So that axis is going to be Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. So wherever those houses are in your chart is your personal power axis for the next 20 years. For me, it feels like we're all going from cultivating to now graduating into sharing what we've cultivated. And it's going to be unique and different for all of us based on that power axis and what houses those are in. And we also have within that, taking a look at how Pluto, transiting Pluto, is making positive aspects to your chart really for the next 20 years. I mean, we don't have to look at the whole 20 years right now. You can look 1 year at a time. But looking to see throughout the year when Pluto is making positive aspects to the personal planets even, which is Mercury, Mars, and Venus, because those transits are more frequent. So this is the formula that you want to look at to discern from your own chart what your power axis is right now, because knowing it is going to help you to work with it more deliberately. If you need help with it, of course, you can reach out and have a reading with me. I am offering Power Axis chart analysis readings specifically for this Pluto transit right now. So you can reach out to book that if you would like. Just reach out to me on my social media or on my website as well. And I'm going to be coming back on and talking a little bit more about this in the fall, because we are going to have a short retrograde period from September 1st through mid-November of 2024. Pluto will retrograde back into Capricorn for the last part of that retrograde. And so there's going to be a revisiting of some of the themes that you feel like you're completing in your life right now in January of 2024. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that when we get to that point. But this will give you an idea of what to expect in the collective and personally speaking, and how you can more deliberately work with that energy. I'm really excited about this shift that we're coming into, because again, I feel like we're all graduating from cultivating into sharing, and that feels really good. So I'd love to hear any insights that you have about this. Feel free to share in the comments below. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. All my love, blessings, namaste, and I'll see you in the next video.